Hi everyone, Thushyanthan here. I want to take a few minutes of your time to welcome Mr. Tim Nolan, and we are going to be talking a little bit about personal Kanban and the workshop that both of us will be co-teaching coming up in a few short weeks. Before we kick it off, I would like to introduce Mr. Tim Nolan. And Mr. Tim, over to you. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name's Tim Nolan. I'm a longtime local Govy middle manager and a Modus Institute faculty member. And I'm very excited about personal Kanban. I'm able to teach that often at workshops uh, in my community of practice, and I'm delighted to be part of this course.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. My name is Thushyanthan Amarthalingam. I shortened my last name to an A dot just because it'll go over the screen a lot. And I'm really excited to be teaching this workshop, this guided personal Kanban course with Tim. I've been a faculty member of Modus Institute for some time now, and that's where I had met Tim. I have found that the use of the personal Kanban has really helped me to keep a lid on the overwhelm that I encounter day to day at my organization, at my work, in my personal life. And I'm really excited to share some of the insight that I've gained from that in this workshop. So I'm going to be sharing my screen right now, and we're going to go a little bit over the schedule of the course. Just to point out that this is going to be a 3-session course over the course of May. Session 0 is going to be kind of a meet and greet to go over some of what we're going to do in this course. And then the sessions 1, 2, and 3 will be the actual course content. Isn't that right, Mr. Tim?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So for those that don't know, I'm just going to put the sales page here. There will be a link to it in the video or in the content that you see here. And I think Tim is going to have a QR code ready for you as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this is just the sales for it to control and thrive in the overwhelm that we are bombarded with during the course of our waking hours and even, I guess, in our sleeping hours too. You can go and check this out. There are 3 payment levels for the course. There's going to be, it's starting about $450 up to $550, where you will get some templates, some things to work with, as well as the copy of the personal Kanban book. It says US only, but I am in Canada, and for those that are in Canada, I will be shipping the books from Vancouver. All right. So, Tim, I'm going to go back to the board here, and actually I wanted to have you talk about the course and what we're going to be doing with that, because you made this beautiful course map.
No, of course. There is a lot of content here. I mean, if you've had any experience with personal Kanban, you may know kind of the basics, and that'll be module 1 that when we talk about it, options, doing, and done. But there's so many nuances to that. And what I love about this course is that we go deep. I mean, it goes a lot deeper than we can do a personal Kanban hour, but if you really want to talk about how that actually helps the overwhelm, how you can actually learn how to prioritize the work, how to actually get flow going, we're going to go deep in that. So the way we've structured this version of the guided PK class or personal Kanban class is the first session we're talking about the first 2 modules, personal Kanban basics and seeing the work. And we will either do a lean coffee during our session. Our sessions will run an hour and a half or 90 minutes. Or we will do a little workshop, kind of build our board. But we want you to have a board ready to go. Either one you've already have just in your experience, or one that you've built based on the module, particularly module 1.
So, Tim, if I may
Yes.
interrupt you very quickly, Tim is talking about your board and having it ready. And this is what we will be covering in session 1 with these 2 modules. And just to give you an example, maybe, Tim, you can talk a little bit about this, just an example of the various kinds of boards that we have in play.
Yeah, so these are from former students. And most of them, as they came to this class, were already using personal Kanban or some version of Kanban already. And if that's great, if you're already doing that, then this will be, this course will be just right for you to improve the board you already have. So, and what I loved about this exercise was we all shared our boards and they were all different, and that's perfectly okay. This whole course is going to be based on your own context. You build a board that works for you and your team, not this is the board that everybody should use. So some boards were analog, like this one, that showed, a whiteboard that actually had stickies on it, and others were digital. Some were mural like we're going to be using in this course. Others were Trello or uh, other, it seems like most applications that you use, I know Jira and Atlassian and all those others have their own version of Kanban boards. What we'll teach in this class is we don't want you to be a slave to the tool. Like whatever the tool is, try not to make it, like make what you do each day fit into their scheme. Try to make it your board, right? And so it would be great if those tools work for you, but if they don't, that's okay, right? One way we know a board will work is like, an analog board. I mean, you build it however you wish to, but don't be discouraged if the tool that you're using doesn't do exactly what you want it to do. You'll figure it out, and you'll just, it's just following the concepts of the way personal Kanban works, which is really quite simple, right? It's just two rules: visualize your work and limit your work in progress. And we'll go deep on in the first session on those two concepts.
Awesome. Yeah, no, Tim, I really like that. Let me just grab my pen here because I like rule number one. Don't talk about personal Kanban.
Yeah.
All right. Limit whip. This is actually rule two. And you see how I did that because rule number one is visualize work.
Yep.
And this is a key driver that I think we miss a lot. And if I can share a short anecdote, the organization that I am primarily with is all remote, 100% remote. And our conversations are not against a board, as it were. And it's just discussion. And it's nice because we get to see people. But the toughest thing is to actually see what it is that people are visualizing in their heads as they try to explain within the cumbersome form of the English language to articulate the pictures in their heads. And that I think is phenomenal when we apply it to these particular rules of visualizing your work and limiting the work in progress. So I'm going to erase that. And Tim, I'll have you explain for session number 2 the following week how we're going to go over the rest of the course material.
Visualizing your work is probably the easiest thing to do. And I just want to kind of make one quick comment regarding that before we move on. Is there's one video that you'll watch that I think there's a segment of that kind of like really lays out the importance of visualizing. Is your brain has a hard time with all of its thoughts in its head. They kind of just pop around. So by visualizing the work, you can write down a task, and then you no longer have to remember it. Because the way your brain handles things like this is, I think I use the term like popcorn, like just pop, an idea will just pop up, and it may not be in the order that you need it to be in, but it is nonetheless in your head now. And those are easy to forget. They're not in order. I think personal Kanban, the visualizing part, actually talks about seeing, like organizing the work that's in your head, so then you don't have to remember. It frees up space either for additional thought or task, however you decide to occupy your brain. So when we get into the next module, we're really getting into how do we manage this now that we've got it out of our head and on the board. What are ways? Actually, the next two modules will be, kind of go deeper and deeper. So the next two are basically organizing your work in a way that allows you to, decide what happens next, right? How, or see patterns in the work. How do you actually do work? You might change the way things get done as you see it. Most folks just do the work because it's in their head. They don't really see a pattern that they can reflect on. So session two will do that, and then three will go even deeper, kind of on the psychology of how, why is it hard for us to do the work that we do, and ways to make us feel a little bit better about doing that work. There's prioritizing throughout the whole thing, so I think that's sort of a key component. Sort of a hidden third rule is ways to prioritize the work that you get done.
Yeah, Tim, you touched on some great topics. I mean, I love to talk about this, and like for me, what I got out of it was, I came into this personal Kanban business just to like be more productive personally. I found that after doing the work and actually visualizing my work and whatever I had in play, it was much more than that. It allowed me a degree of control and autonomy and agency that I never really had. I wasn't reactive to a lot of things, and I was able to determine what should get my priority.
Mm-hmm.
And let me go back to some of the boards and share what I got from the students here. So typically, if I come from Atlassian background, at least in my organization. So from a basic Kanban board, you have a to do, a backlog, in progress, and a done. But this example that I'm showing you is much more than that. There's extra columns. There's a backlog column as an example, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to do your board this way. This is just a context of one student and their work. There's the backlog here. There's the today column. There's the doing column. We all know what, hopefully, the doing column is. There's a pen column. This is like a pig pen, or where you corral your work in progress, as it were. Then there's done. And then what I liked about this one was things that you did were not on your board slash time killers. So this particular individual took the concept of these questions that we're going to get to within the course that you can apply to yourself to make it make sense for your context, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a differentiation between backlog and today. And that hits on what Tim was talking about in terms of priority. And priority also goes nicely into the pen, where you corral sort of your activities, because if you decide that, oh, you're going to work on task one, two, three, and suddenly you find that task one is blocked by somebody who's on vacation for X number of days or weeks or hours or whatever have you, then you're kind of stuck at task number one and you can't get to the rest of it, right? And so we're going to get into this kind of aspect of the course. And I think this is an appropriate segue, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, to go into the requirements for participating in this course, especially if you wanted to get the certification after. And I'm just going to talk about the assignments that are part of each of the modules
Yeah.
that you'll be talking about and we'll be discussing in our sessions. Please, Tim, go ahead.
Yeah. So I mean, there is a lot of content here, and we want to, in order to get the certification, we want you to do the work for it, right? Earn it. Uh, we don't want to just buy the cert. We want you to kind of go through, because we think, or we know, that this helps. We know this helps. And if you go through and take the time necessary to kind of go through each of them, like in this case, there's a sort of a cluster of questions that relate back to the module that you're in, and go through these, and actually go through and answer these questions. So we'll go in our first session. We'll talk about how, like, where you post your homework and those types of things. But we've curated these questions to make sure that you learn and understand the work that we're doing here. This isn't just busy work. This is stuff that helps. So, I'm asking you to trust us. We've thought through this, and it may seem like a lot, but if you just simply answer the questions, it'll actually improve the board that you have. So, like in this first module, if you have a board going, that's great. Then you can, reflect based on your experience. But if this is the first time you've built a board, it's designed for that too. Like, now that you have things in your head, now that you've been able to organize them a little bit more, in this concept of limiting the work to actually get more work done, what has that experience been like? We want to share that. And we'll do this just among the class, the students within the class. But if there's an epiphany that you need to share, like, oh my gosh, I've learned so much from this one thing that I can't believe that I need to share it with others, then you can share it with the community. We have a Modus community out there that that everybody, that you can share with all, so well, we want to keep the class, to our cohort here, so we just share among ourselves, but we can also expand that if there's something that's just so, you know, so incredible that you just had to share with everyone else, or a horrible experience that you've had so far that other people can learn from. So we want to make sure we have, that you will be part of a larger community here. But we'll start with the cohort first, our class first, and then we can share with others.
Yeah. So Tim, thanks very much for that. So what I'm
Sure.
sharing on the screen right now is the community on motorsinstitute.com, where we will have a group for your particular peers in this cohort. And when Tim was talking about the ahas, the epiphanies that you get by answering the questions and sharing with your peers, that's what this is for. So this is not just for us as instructors to say yay or nay that you've done the work or whatever it is. This is really an ongoing series of questions and reflection that you are going to be doing with your work, with what you understand based on what you're learning from your peers, from the discussions and from the course content, and then sharing your ahas, your learning with us. We do have, there'll be an opportunity for like a private cohort based sort of content, but we do encourage you to share it with the rest of the Modus Institute community, either in the Modus forum here or at least related to this particular course in the Personal Kanban forum. And this is only to help yourself as well as the rest of the community, because there is there's great value in receiving feedback from a diverse background of professionals in thought, word, and deed to prompt. I'm talking like ChatGPT now, to create those prompts that'll allow you to go deeper into your own context to find out how it is that you can make your work more enjoyable, more humane, and how, as hand off your work to other members, either upstream or downstream from you, and it's not just in a professional context. It's also, like I use this in my personal family context as well. That handoff process is made with less friction, let's say, if this work is visualized in
Right.
such a way. And so that's what the community is there for. Um, Going back to this, you'll notice that that there are lots of questions. It's just that the first two modules, they set up the stage, and that's why there's more work in here,
Yep.
or at least it looks like there are more questions. But in terms of the work, uh, you're going to get what out of it what you put into it. So with that encouragement, I hope that's encouragement. I would invite, the invitation is to come into this with an open mind, to potentially invite yourself to be a beginner in all of this, and be a beginner about visualizing your work and even identifying how it is that you can work with the strengths of your cognitive system to actually move work into done and with quality. And I know I'm speaking a little too far ahead, but these are the nature of the questions, and this is what will show up in the course. And again, Tim, not to get too much ahead of myself, the invitation is for you guys as a group, as a cohort, to work together to provide feedback on what you see others doing, to invite feedback for the work that you're visualizing for yourself, and to discuss and identify areas of improvement, questions that can suss out the value that you are attempting to derive from the work. Over to you, Tim.
Yeah, and everyone has a unique experience, and that's what's so great about this. All we're doing is creating kind of a way to manage um, all the work we are all doing. We all have more than one thing to do at once. This is a way to kind of manage all of that stuff. And if you just look at the course itself, Module 1 is really just 40, less than an hour's worth of videos to watch. I mean, so there's not much of a commitment, but we want you to, absorb it, right? So, my recommendation is uh, go to the final questions first, and just kind of read through them and have them kind of in your mind, or have them kind of like, so as you watch videos, they'll address some of these questions, so then you can kind of answer as you go along. So instead of just watching the entire module, then going back and trying to catch all this, some of this you can catch in the first 2 or 3 videos, and go ahead and answer as you go along. So that might be a strategy for you. So it doesn't feel, we don't, certainly we're talking about, we're instructing or guiding a course about how to keep you from being overwhelmed. The last thing we want to do is overwhelm you. So,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
so this is kind of, that's kind of a strategy for you to kind of pre-read the questions, at least for the first 2 modules. And then as you go through the videos, you might be able to answer, or kind of, add to the questions you go along. So by the time you're finished the last video, you might pretty much be finished with the last question.
Awesome. Tim, at this point, just because in the interest of time, I wanted to quickly recap my understanding and share that with you. So this course is the guided PK workshop with Tim and I. We will be doing this over a series of 3 sessions, and it's the calendar here. It'll be for May 2024. The first session will start on the 16th and will go until the 30th. But there's going to be a pre-session where we're going to get together to, just have a chat, to meet our peers, to meet us, the instructors, and kind of go on what we're going to do. So I've also done the work here. Like, I've bracketed this out as session number 1, 2, and 3. And the idea is that before you come to session 1, you would have watched and made notes for yourself for these 2 modules, and the same with session 2 and the same with session 3. Each time we meet, we're going to be meeting for about 90 minutes or so, and we will either have workshops where we discuss the state of your board or have examples of it, or we'll have a series of lean coffees where the topics of conversations will be emergent depending upon what happened to you that week, or how you want to showcase your board, or things like that, of that nature. And then finally, the questions that you're going to be answering, even though it appears to be a lot, is again for your benefit to see what the work is like. Did I get that correct there, Tim?
Yeah, absolutely. It's perfect. Well done.
Bravo. I'll just do a self pat on the back.
Yeah.
No, and you'll notice that, Tim and I, we joke around. I'd like to think I'm a funny guy, but, other people have opinions on that too. But yeah. And so, like, just to wrap it up, personally, I found the personal Kanban has been extremely helpful. And again, I came at it from a personal productivity kind of thing where I wanted to do more with the amount of time that I had. But after doing personal Kanban, after evaluating where the work that I receive comes from, who my upstream is, who my downstream is, and the changing nature of that, I found the evolution of priorities themselves are emergent. And it's not about packing more stuff into a limited block of time, but doing some stuff with great quality and handing it off and moving it to done, which provides a much more significant boost of dopamine to my cognitive facilities, which allows me the joy, honestly, to be more humane about work and to pull work into my doing. Tim?
Fantastic. Perfect.
Awesome. So, folks, I would encourage you to sign up. It'll be for the month of May. You have until, the course is going to be yours to do with what you will, but for the certification purposes, to answer your questions, understanding that, 1 month may be a little bit tight, we do have until the end of June where you will have Tim and myself to bounce questions and ideas off again, and to actually do the work to complete that certification process. Any other final thoughts, Tim, that you wanted to point out?
No, like, I think you said it best. It is your course, so we're here for you as you have questions about your own work, or how, and how you're managing it now and how you want to manage it in the future. And what I'd like to do is, sort of see your board early, like in this session, like a gallery, and then let's see what the boards look like after the 3rd module. See if anything has, we picked up anything from the class to kind of improve the board that you already have.
No,
So I'm
perfect.
really excited about that. I'm confident that we're all going to learn something new here, and I'm delighted to teach this with you, Thushyanthan. So this will be fantastic.
Yeah, likewise, Tim. I'm super excited about this course. I can't wait to see you and I teach, and to the rest of the cohort who's going to join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can promise you lots of swag, digital, virtual swag that, and also depending upon, whether or not you want the personal Kanban book, definitely that'll be in the works. Tim,
Yep.
thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Folks, for those that have stayed on this long, thank you again. I look forward to seeing you in the course. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye for now.
Bye.